So here is some news that no one is talking about. Israel seems to be imploding. There's a video to this, so calm down. But I figured some context to this man's words, which is the president of Israel, would give some understanding of what we're looking for and to why you're seeing it. So this is via VOA. It's Middle East News, VOA. This is from the Associated Press. Tel Aviv, Israel. Thousands, tens of thousands of Israelis took to the street in several cities across the country Saturday, protesting judicial overhaul plans by Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Now, just an FYI, their elections don't go like any of ours. Oh no. If the person running the show don't like the results, he just asks for another election until you, the people, get it right. Which is why Netanyahu is always in there. Critics say measures introduced by the new hardline government would weaken the Supreme Court, limit judicial oversight, and grant more power to politicians. Protesters say that would undermine democracy. The rift over the power of courts is deepening as the government is set to introduce some of the legislation in Parliament Monday amid calls for partial strikes by businesses and professional groups. For the 6th week, protesters pressed on with large rallies, with main one in the central city of Tel Aviv and several smaller gatherings in other cities. Now, this is a very tame news story about what's going on over there, because you're about to hear this guy talk about some things that should scare people, especially those in office, because apparently it's not just tens of thousands, and they're not just protesting, they're attacking politicians. So what we're really looking for, is he scared? Are there flexion points of even more terror? Or are they just hyping something in order to justify locking down the citizenry? Shall we begin?
We're not in a political division. We are in the midst of a crisis. And therefore, as Israeli presidents have done before in such...
So you're hearing the translation. I don't speak Hebrew, so it might be a lag. More than likely, it is a lag between the translator who processes what he hears and then puts it out of his mouth. But as you can see, he's reading a prepared speech. He's got the paper right there in front of him. He is giving good eye contact. Now, I've never seen this man before. I do see some stress lines in between the eyes and in the forehead, but they're not, shall I say, very prominent. It's more like, it would be the equivalent of a stern talking to, as far as the kind of stress that's there.
Extreme cases. I refuse to stand aside. I hear and see the protests all over the country. Wide audience of patriots who are fulfilling their rights of protest and are committed to the destiny of the people. We all feel that we are a moment.
Okay, so those lines between his eyes are becoming more and more prominent. So it would tell me that the stress is building up. It's not a lot, because it's just that one little spot, but they're there and they've stayed there through a few sentences.
Before a collision, and even a violent collision, that we're on the verge of an explosion. I wish, I beg of each and every one of you, my brothers and sisters, the threats from outside are great enough. Any sort of violence.
So I'm going to assume on the Believe Me look, he's speaking on the outside threats, which is obviously different from everything else that we've seen. So it's kind of like, not so bad. Maybe a little bit of emphasis. We don't really know, but it seems like it's out of place considering what we have seen.
And violence against those who are elected is a red.
And there we see the eyes. You saw that eyebrow movement come in, and even more stress, the violence against politicians. So that is a real stressor. It's a really big one because he had to give so much to it in his face subconsciously. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, wow, this is getting pretty hairy for him. Now, the context being, he's probably living in his bubble, and the politicians that are out there getting attacked probably didn't have security around them, or the security was overwhelmed considering the numbers that are out there. So him in his position, he has more security and more ways to travel that are more secure.
Line that we must not cross in the choice between breaking apart and joining together. We choose joining together.
I don't think that word matches quite that. We choose joining together, but he points towards them. So to me, it's kind of like, you. I say he's getting pretty nervous. The little tells that we saw, he's getting pretty nervous over these protests. These are protests unlike anywhere else in the world. These people are armed. All of them join the military after school. I believe they have it's either 2 years or 4 years that they, by law, have to do. So they all have experience with weapons. They all have experience in combat. And most likely, considering all the fighting that Israel has done for the many decades, all of them have experience in combat, like actual combat, not pretend. If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers.